Hi, I'm Max, and welcome to the Play Base podcast. Today with me, I have Leah.
Hiya.
And Valeria.
Hey there.
Today we're going to be discussing the Microsoft conference, the battle of their exclusives. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. Our first game that we're going to be speaking about is Dying Light 2. What were your impressions on the decisions drastically altering the game's intensity and branching narrative?
I like how they did it this time because there were a lot of games that have been trying to incorporate different choice options that would alter the game experience. Yet Dying Light, at least what they promise, seem to have it running deeply in their game mechanics, which I'd say is one of the breaking through mechanics right now, because they have tried to do a similar thing in Dragon Age Inquisition, but it didn't run so deeply into the actual gameplay and into the game experience.
Yeah, there was a game that recently came out, I think it was called Detroit Become Human. It also had a mechanic where if you was to have a confrontation with another person, or if you discussed a certain subject or you picked up an object, there would be repercussions to the storyline. You would have a different ending to every single playthrough that you had, and that would simply be because of your choice at that certain moment in time. I think it's a very good decision to go with this type of mechanic because it leads to more decision making, and it leads to more choices for the player to try and chase after.
Is that game an indie game, do you know?
No, it's a AAA game from Quantum Dreams.
Oh, that's great, because usually I see choice mechanics and multiple endings in indie games. I don't know why, I just think it's a nice sort of project for a lot of indie developers that can put a lot of time into their games, where AAA companies tend to want to get them out and get them sold as quickly as possible. So it's really gratifying in Dying Light to see a well thought out choice system mechanic that's deeply embedded into the game and affects every aspect of the game.
Yeah, with regards to the aspects of the game, I was actually wondering whether it would have the same type of effects as Dishonored, whereby if you killed a certain amount of people, then there'd be rats and plagues and everything littering the streets. If that was the type of effect that it would have on the environment in Dying Light, that would be very interesting with the zombies and the type of animals that would be roaming around.
Yeah, I think they said that the example they gave in the trailer was water, I think. If you choose to sort of liberate water or to keep it as a controlled resource, and I think that's you supporting like the pseudo government or the rebels. And I think specifically the way that they chose water rather than sort of your example is going to be pretty integral to Dying Light, because it is inherently a survival game, and they're trying to focus on aspects of human survival as well as survival from zombies, like a lot of other apocalypse games.
Yeah, and with their key feature being parkour in the game too, I think it's a game that will be very fast-paced, and it will also open a lot of opportunities to different avenues that a player can take, and different ways that they can tackle a story mission or even a different type of event that they have in the world. With that, what do you think to the parkour system? Do you think it will have any impact on the pace?
I imagine so. I think there's going to be a big disparity between the kind of fast-paced action sequences that especially seem to be going to take place at night when all of the zombies and the monsters come out, and the sort of maybe slower-paced action of the day where you've got to think carefully about your decision-making, things like that. I think it's going to make a really interesting dynamic.
I'd say it's gonna impact the pace entirely. I mean, just think if in Thief you can have these fast-paced actions and then suddenly slow ones, it would not be as intriguing. It's just going to add the entire sort of tension to every critical moment when you're just gonna run and you have to make quick decisions.
Yeah, especially if you're like at night and there's zombies just chasing after you, you've got to get running. And if you're on top of buildings, it would give you a lot of opportunities. You could jump down. There was a scene where the character jumped onto a rope and then he landed onto the billboards and like slid his way down. All those type of opportunities would be brilliant, and it provides a lot of incentive to just keep coming back to the game, because every single gameplay session is going to be unique to that player.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
every player will get their own story for one. There's not going to be a single person talking about the same storyline here.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, I think the way that the parkour system is used in this game, or is planned to be used, is going to be sort of very different to something maybe like Assassin's Creed, where the parkour, the climbing system in Assassin's Creed is very much your tool. It's the way you explore and get around. But in Dying Light and Lara Croft, and in Dying Light, I think it's going to be more about the actual narrative. Like, your parkour is going to be your vehicle, what takes you away from everything, not necessarily what enables you to, kill the person you're after or whatever.
So you think that the story is going to be the main driving force for the game?
I think the gameplay is structured to support the story. I don't think they would have put so much emphasis in how the choice mechanics affect the gameplay if the narrative wasn't going to be the driving force in the game. I'm not saying that the gameplay isn't important, obviously it is, but I think they've really upped the ante on this one.
Yeah.
I'd say that they try to put a lot of story into the actual environments rather than just the environment supporting the story. I think it's going to be sort of raising more to the story. You can go around the storyline and just get that storyline, but the more you explore, you'll get the fuller story. You'll get the full image.
Yeah, and with the characters that you are able to talk to and interact with, there are times where the character can have a dialogue with them, and there's like these different type of conversations that come up that you can say, oh, I don't like you, I'm going to kill you now, or I'm going to side with you, and then put all the water on the black market. And that gives the player the choice of whether they want to side with them or if they want to take matters into their own hands.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really well thought out game. I think they've put a lot of effort into balancing the story and the narrative and the gameplay, and I think they're going to complement each other quite well, but it's all going to be down to the actual playtesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that said, we're going to move on to our next game, and that is Devil May Cry 5. Do you think that the game's returning back to its classic roots?
Not the haircut.
That's very true. He looks, I think, dissimilar from how he used to, but I think it's going to be intriguing.
Well, I don't think we're actually going to be playing because normally it's the Dante's look that we're going for. And with this one, I think it's more Virgil, because he was wearing the blue coat. And
of course.
Yeah, that was one of the things that gave it away from me. I don't know that for a fact, but that's something that I think is a possibility.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. Did the aesthetic impact your thoughts on the game?
Definitely for me. I didn't even recognise it as a Devil May Cry game, but then I'm not very well versed with that franchise. I thought the look of the game was quite unique and also very entertaining. It gives a very different feel to the game. It's quite dark and quite gritty, but the dialogue and the way the characters behave was almost like in direct contrast to it. The jokes that the female character was making about how his whole life revolves around slaying the demons and that he's, super good at it.
Yeah, with the possibilities of it being just about I know it has a narrative, but the main part of it is killing demons and just going out all guns blazing.
Yeah.
I saw that there was a robotic arm that was being utilised a lot.
He lost his arm.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a key feature of the game. But what are your impressions about it? Do you think that it's going to be something that can be upgraded, or do you think it's going to be something that can be customised, or is it just going to be something that's just there?
Of course. They already featured the whole scene where he gets a new arm from the sassy chick. I'll call her the sassy chick. But he's been talking about how she's been working on this arm for him, and there is a scene where he comes to get a new arm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it would be more tasteful and more interesting in the actual gameplay that the arm is a key feature of his character and not just they've created a disabled character but they haven't really touched on the fact he's disabled. They're just kind of giving him a metal arm and he's back to normal.
Yeah, they're providing more opportunities for the player to go and chase. They're allowing the player to... I'm guessing that there's going to be more weapons for the player to use, and there's also going to be different type of arms with different type of abilities or different type of abilities to use.
Yeah, that would be good if they had upgradable arm, like the arm was the key feature and the key sort of weapon. I don't know if it is going to be like that because there were some pretty obvious weapons they were pushing in the trailers, and there was pretty obvious sort of styles of fighting that I don't think are going to include the arm. But it would be good if the arm is featured as a weapon and not just as a way to get around the fact that he lost it.
Yeah, I was just speculating because with the arm and the other weapons, in the other games there's always like a sword and two pistols, and I also saw the same with this game, there was a sword and two pistols. But
yeah.
With, I think it was the previous Devil May Cry made by Ninja Theory, they actually implemented a few other weapons, depending on whether you're on the demon side or the angel side. And I think if they provided us with that type of gameplay, that would be really cool, but keeping their own aesthetic and their own twist on things.
I think your weapon would change in the previous one according to what situation you were in, and you could sort of switch it, your sword one. Because I know you could have a scythe for sure in it. That was one of them. And I think it was changing for you depending on the situation that you were in. Yeah,
that's the type of thing that I would like to have in this game too. Because with that, it made me feel empowered having loads of different type of variations on weapons that could be used in different type of gameplay situations.
Yeah, I think the weapon system in the game is going to be pretty integral. I think it has been before, and the fact that they're reviving the franchise in this way, I think they're going to be sticking to a lot of their old roots. It really seems like they're planning to give this classic a new breath of life, but not change it too much, and sort of give the fans what they've really been asking for.
Yeah, you're talking about classics and giving the people what they've really been asking for. We'll go on to our next one, which is Shadows of the Tomb Raider. And yeah, this is the final chapter of Tomb Raider's trilogy. What did you think to the story trailer? What was your impressions on it?
I really enjoyed the story trailer. I thought the new take on the narrative of her stealing from the tomb, and that's actually a really bad thing, all of a sudden, and she's, brought these consequences down and she didn't mean to. I think it's a unique take that they've tried to do. I think whether it's going to be a good idea whether they've done that, or, it's going to be quite a weak storyline, it's going to depend on how much influences the gameplay.
Do you think that because of Lara's interests in tombs and artifacts, that she's now became a villain of her own story?
Not really, no. She did a mistake, according to the trailer, obviously. She does a mistake, and the second she realizes it, she tries to fix it, so it was never actually her intent to create the disaster. And as you can see, she tries to take that dagger to prevent the other person from getting it, and then she unleashes the flooding, not on purpose.
But with her accumulating all these artifacts over the years, you would have thought that she would have known the repercussions to trying to take something that's so important and integral to the culture. And with the first game, I think they was tackling like a goddess that wanted to destroy the world if she was released off the islands that they was on. You would have thought that she would have learnt a lesson the first time around. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking that she could possibly become the villain of her own story, because she kind of knows what she's doing and she's done it many times already. So yeah, she should have an understanding.
I think they just leave her naive in the beginning of each and every game, which is quite silly considering every time she finds a new story that she's following through, she finds a new myth. But yet, even though she went through all of these different myths, she's still naive in the beginning of each and every game, and at the end of each and every game, she ends up discovering the truth, which she forgets by the beginning of the next game.
Of course.
But I think with her mechanics, even though the story, she seems like she's gone back to her naive roots and then she comes back as the almighty hero, her mechanics have actually matured really well, because they've placed in a traversal system with grappling and wall running and even a 360 underwater movement system.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to actually play her. And I hope that makes up for, whatever they're planning to do with their actual character, assassinate it or not. But I'm still probably going to play it, obviously. But I think I don't want the gameplay and, the feel of the character to be ruined by the fact that I actually hate what's going on in the game. I kind of want them to be able to complement each other.
Yeah, that's a very valid reason. With the story and with the mechanics, you want them to always complement each other.
Exactly.
You don't want them to be conflicting.
I doubt these experienced developers will actually disappoint us. It may not be their best game in the series, but I would say it would be to a high standard, as they have made a lot of these games, and by now I'd say they know what they're doing.
Yeah, but you can't always rely on a tried and tested developer to knock out success after success. There have been very specific, very obvious failings in a series. And I'm just hoping that Shadow of the Tomb Raider isn't going to be one of them. I don't think it's going to be terrible.
But it could be like Andromeda.
It could be like Andromeda. I was trying not to say it, but it could be like Andromeda.
I don't think it will be, though, because with the game, it's not subtracting any of the mechanics and it's not subtracting from any of the other things that she's been able to do in prior games. It's all just additions.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of adding stuff, but like in terms of movement, and I'm just hoping that's really going to be enough, I guess. You'd think that the progressive attitude that they've got with gameplay and actual world building is going to carry on into her characterization, but part of me wonders if they're going to keep Lara as kind of this almost antiquated stereotype, or because she's been a powerful female protagonist for a long time. Her franchise is very, very solidified.
So other games right now are moving to make powerful female characters like Uncharted. That's what they do.
Yeah, I hope they're not, again, just, paragons. They're taking a fully developed male character and just giving them a set of boobs. And Lara never felt like that, so I'm hoping they don't do that to her.
Yeah, again, with some of the gameplay scenarios, allow her to show her maturity and the skills that she's obtained over the years. Say like her new stealth system that's came into the game too, called Becoming One with the Jungle. I like it, it's long, but yeah. This allows Lara to hide in foliage, allows her to camouflage herself with mud, and also shroud herself in shadows a little bit like Splinter Cell.
That sounds fun.
Time to get dirty.
Yeah. I believe that it also provides more narrative to her because it allows people that have already played her to see, yeah, she is now at the peak of her understanding of everything that she's doing.
Oh, really? That's not what you were saying a few minutes ago.
I'm just saying that with the gameplay, I am not worried about. But the narrative, I am slightly concerned.
I think it's a new type of narrative. Before, she's always been sort of the unquestionable hero. She rescues stuff, and then she has to escape from the consequences that causes, which is usually being chased by a bunch of bad guys. But this time, she's brought the consequences upon herself. So, I'm just hoping that this is not going to be a bad change. I'm not glad it's a change.
We've all got to be able to adapt and change with these games, especially because we don't want them to always be the same thing. Say like with God of War, I was especially surprised because I was thinking that the game was going to come out weird because the camera system was all changed, the combat, the pacing was slowed down. But with that, they was able to make the character more mature, more personal. People can get a connection with them, and I think that they'll probably try and do the same thing with Lara Croft, but it will have to wait and see with how the game really comes out with the narrative, because like we're all trying to say, basically it's a big change, but we don't know how it's going to come out in the end.
Yeah, let's hope it does as well as God of War.
Yeah. If they do, they've got a moneymaker right there. And talking about another game that we really don't have a lot of information about, we've only seen a cinematic trailer, and then there was some other information that was released, which I'll tell you about right now. We're talking about CD Projekt Red's new game, Cyberpunk 2077.
Whoop whoop.
You'll be playing
Fireworks.
as a hired gun called V within Night City. There is a robust character customization system. How do you feel with regards to the character being able to be customized in a single-player, story-driven game?
I've always loved customization in games. I'm a huge RPG fan, so that was always very integral to sort of RPG universes, being able to put yourself into the terms of the character. I think people have a tendency to exploit that. If they're not too interested in playing the game seriously, then it's always a lot of fun when you create a very, let's say, distinct customized character and then see them in cutscenes and things like that. It can sometimes be quite jarring because you're always very aware of, oh, I created that nose to look like that, and I created that hair to look like that. So I think it can be engaging and also maybe distracting if they have the character model in too many cutscenes. But I'm looking forward to the customization of Cyberpunk.
It's also something that CG Projekt didn't do for Witcher, which understandably Witcher was made over from a book, so there was a set character. But considering how well they make the games, I think people will be very, very happy to place themselves. Well, at least I usually try to make someone who looks like me.
Yeah.
But to put something of their own into the game to make it more of a personal experience.
But how do you feel about the fact that the game is in first person? It's not a third person game. There'll be some scenarios where you will see your character in like cutscenes and interactions, but apart from that, you will be in constant first person mode.
I think that's trying to take it out of the element of RPG, because obviously most RPGs are third person, so you get to see your character all the time. And I think that's where the character customization comes into its own, because you get to almost live that. But first person, despite it bringing you sort of close to the action, I don't know how well it's going to gel with character customization, because it is going to be sort of jarring when they take you out of that cutscene and you get to remember, oh yeah, I did create that character. Why do they look like that again?
Yeah.
I don't see an issue with the first person thing, because let's be honest, Deus Ex was also first person, and yes, it was actually really, really fantastic, and it was quite immersive from the visuals point of view. And I think that's what they're going to try and achieve with this game.
So do you think that there'll be moments where if you like enter cover or something like that, they'll then get shift into the third person perspective?
I hope
It depends what kind of mechanics they have.
Yeah, I hope if it's first person, they commit to it.
There's nothing wrong with that. It does give you a bit of an easier way to play the game, because then you can see better, and you will not be getting so irritated if you are, sort of trying to hide and then suddenly you just peep out and everyone sees you. It would be quite disappointing if it's just constantly happening, and would be really annoying and irritating. But then that depends if you actually have covers in the game. Or do you just always go guns blazing?
That would be fun.
Bioshock.
But they provided you with other possibilities, such as hacking. So it becomes more like Deus Ex, where if your tech skill... Actually, let's talk about that. You can also customize your character's stats. A little bit like Dark Souls, but you're not attached to a class per se. The stats that were stated were strength, constitution, intelligence, reflexes, tech, and cool. The cool ability, I don't know about that one. It's probably just saying, yeah, I'm chill, bruv. But, yeah.
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Yeah, I don't know how exactly the cool ability will work, but...
it might not be, telephone call. It might be something like a kind of magnetism.
Ooh, yeah. So do you think it'll be more of an attraction type of skill? So
yeah, it might be a physical attraction to sort of people, like a kind of, a sense about you. Yeah, or they might take it almost more literally and give you a kind of technological call ability where you can, pull things towards you. If they're metal thing turns you into Magneto.
Oh, damn. Well, there's even...
That would be fun.
Well, if they do that type of thing, they could take it in so many different directions. To my understanding, there's also places where you can plug into people, or you can plug into, buildings and all that type of stuff to understand their narrative. Because at the start of the game, you actually create your own backstory and then other characters and NPCs will react to your backstory and you.
This is reminding me a lot of an RPG. Like, really, really reminding me.
Dragon Age Origins right there.
I'm thinking literally just more D&D. Creating your character, giving yourself stats, giving yourself a backstory. That's very D&D.
Oh, D&D is a legend.
That is what they're describing themselves as, a FPS RPG, not an FPS shooter.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really intriguing then. And I'm kind of glad they've done it in person, if just to detract from the fact that, I don't want another RuneScape.
Yeah.
Have you played Prey?
Yes.
Yeah. The customization of stats, and especially the hacking ability that you just said, that's reminding me a lot of Prey, because you can do the similar thing. And the hacking ability, it's a game, so it's just sort of a mini sequence type hacking ability. But being able to upgrade and plug in random places, almost like checkpoints, that's actually very similar to what I remember Prey to be like.
Yeah, it also kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen it, Ghost in the Shell.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, where you can just hack into other people's brains. And
yes, Ghost in the Shell. I love Ghost in the Shell. Not so much the new movie, but the old films, so good.
Yeah, what are you talking about, the one with Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, Scarjo, she tried. She was decent.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's go on to our next one, which is one of Microsoft's main titles. It's exclusive to Xbox, Gears 5. How do you guys feel about playing a female protagonist? I know you've spoken about Tomb Raider, but with Gears 5, it's kind of different because with all the other Gears games, we haven't played female. We've normally played the brutal man and the guy that wants to go all in. Mm-hmm. And we're now playing a female that's slightly vulnerable. She feels that her mind's being manipulated from what it seems like in the trailer. What are your thoughts?
As far as I know, she's been on the team with the rest of the brutal guys for a while. So I think she should be just as badass as everybody else.
Yeah, I'm not expecting big differences in terms of play style. I imagine they're not change a lot just because she's a woman. I would hope not anyway.
Yeah, here's to hoping.
Though I'm not very sure of the character's intentions, because she's wearing the necklace, even though it's from her grandma, but it is a necklace of their enemy, and that's a little bit off because she's fully aware what that sign means, yet she's so dedicated to go and find out about it.
Yeah, but there's always a scenario where the protagonist gets an item and then they're put onto this venture of discovery, and I think that's...
Yeah, but not an item of your enemy. It's like wearing swastika and fighting Nazis.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they're gonna combat this, whether they're kind of gonna gloss over the fact that it's such a powerful symbol in the game, or whether they're not gonna mention it. And I think if they aren't gonna mention it, I think that's gonna be because the end of the game comes with a twist that's related to it.
Or it's to be done in the DLC.
Oh my god. If they rip us off for a DLC, I'm gonna flip.
I don't think they will, but yeah.
Not with all the flack that EA is getting anyway.
Do you think that the other games that was announced with Gears will affect its sales, such as Gears Pop and Gears Tactics?
Gears Pop was a meme. Gears Pop was just so they could throw everyone off Gears 5. I think Gears Tactics might have something, but Gears Pop is literally just going to be for people to amuse themselves with whilst they're, waiting for the 5th DLC of Gears 5 or whatever.
With cuteness. A lot of cuteness.
Yeah, so they're going to amuse themselves with cuteness.
They may just be trying to expand their audience, because with Gears of War, it's very, very gory and violent game, and it's not going to be available.
You think they're trying to get children into Gears?
Children involved.
Yeah, I think they are.
With all due respect, I think Gears Pop was actually made for Gears fans rather than children, because children, they're not really going to be interested in it. Those characters have no meaning to them.
I don't think it's going to be a very good idea to introduce children to Gears Pop, and then once they get excited in that and actually want to play the console version, introduce them to, any of the other Gears ones and have them get blown up.
But I think it's more of an introduction. If you get them at a younger age, then that will make them more susceptible to the product once they get to an older age. That's what I'm thinking. It's more of like, here's the game now, Gears Pop. It's available to the younger audience, and then they'll get to an older age and they'll be like, yeah, I really like Gears Pop. I hear Gears of War. There we go.
I don't know. I think it would be funny if they did that, but I doubt it. Somehow I feel like they're just going to go with the kind of casual game route. In terms of Gears Pop, it's really going to be not a very serious game, I imagine. Not really to kind of draw a lot of attention. I do think it's going to be interesting that they're actually branching into mobile games, because not a lot of AAA companies are really thinking of that kind of thing. I think it's interesting that Gears have decided to take a very serious genre and kind of, in a way, kidify it.
Yeah. But with that said, we can move on to our last game, which is Forza Horizon 4.
Gonna be awesome. Really looking forward to it. Never really a fan of car games, but this one's really got me interested.
Yeah, it's based in England, but do you think that this will restrict the terrain options?
Well, it didn't look like it. Yeah, the trailer was really sort of open with the different maps and the different, especially the seasonal aspects. You know, any restrictions in location is going to be made up with the fact that you can play any location in 4 different seasons.
Because theoretically, for one, England isn't that small and there's quite a lot of terrain to explore. For two, even though England is an island, they did kind of fix that whole, not being size of Russia thing with having different seasons, making every location, basically multiplying all of the locations by 4.
Exactly. And not to mention, they've definitely opened up the possibilities for DLCs with new maps.
Yeah, so do you really think that the seasonal changes will be very impactful to the gameplay then?
I hope so. It definitely looked like it would.
Like, come on, the whole driving should theoretically depend on your weather conditions. And if they implement it properly in the game, it will be a lot about it. For one, you get more locations like driving on ice.
Yeah.
Say the different type of weather conditions and everyone's driving about, because it's a shared open world. Don't you think that will become like the crashing simulator bit? And do you think that they'll be giving us the opportunity to have insurance on our cars?
Oh my god, that's going to be some hefty insurance. No, I doubt that kind of thing. I think that I agree with you with, car crash simulator, but I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to add a fun aspect into it, the fact that they're just going to be cars careening about all over the place. And if they don't implement some kind of server control, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I think that they wouldn't go all into the seasonal changes in the open world if there wasn't a way to protect players from their investment in the car.
They're not going to put 10,000 or 100,000 players in one map and just watch them go riot, especially in a winter map where they're just, careening off the White Cliffs of Dover or whatever.
That would be more like a traffic simulator.
Yeah, London traffic simulator, that'd be fun.
What are your opinions on, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people in the game, do you think, because we've got the option of having the 60 FPS mode, do you think it'll be a very, very slimline experience?
I think it's going to be a welcome experience having 60 FPS mode, and especially in a game where you travel so fast all of the time, and with so many people in the game. It would be nice for the 60 FPS to remain constant, and I hope that they've put a lot of thought into that. What I am now thinking is that the more people are in the game and the sort of harder it is to drive, I wonder how much that 60 FPS is going to dip.
Yeah, because with regards to the cars and the different type of effects that they're going to have in their animations.
And all the customization of the cars.
Yeah, you have to think about optimization. But because they're a AAA studio and they're backed by Microsoft, I think that they will have in place the optimization.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I also wouldn't be surprised if 60 FPS mode is only really a worthwhile thing for people with big beeping machines.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think the social aspect of the game is a good idea because, driving together on the same server and experiencing the same weather conditions, it's going to be, the poor man's experience of actually going out and driving with a friend, except you both get to drive and you don't have to leave the house. I think it's really going to be a
a useful and rewarding mechanic.
Yeah, I think so too. And with that said, we have actually reached the end of the podcast. I thank you all and thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
See you guys.
Bye.